Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time to do another chit chat style video. We did a Q&A a while ago and a lot of you guys really enjoyed it, and so did I. It was fun to just chat about fandom, shipping, and all kinds of things that sometimes you don't get a chance to talk about in just day-to-day life. Now I got tons of questions during that Q&A, and unfortunately I couldn't answer all of them even though I really wanted to, and some of them it was because I just had so much to say, and this following question was one of them. It was from Beauty Object, or Butty Object, I'm not sure which. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but I'm gonna go with Beauty because, I don't know, I like it. They comment all the time, so thank you so much, and I really wanted to answer your question. That being, what is your favorite TV show? Top 5. Well, actually, this was a harder question for me to answer than I wanted to admit because I watch a lot of TV and I enjoy a lot of TV. Also, I feel like favorites, everybody just does their favorites. And a lot of the times with your favorites, it's stuff everybody's watching already anyway. And then I thought, what about those shows that you love but nobody else seems to? Those could be interesting, and I thought I would share those with you guys because maybe you guys are watching them and we can chat about them, or maybe you've never seen them. It can be a recommendation for something that you'd like to check out. So let's do this. 5 TV shows you should be watching right now if you're interested, maybe, or if not. Let's do it. While this is a shipping channel, not everything I watch has to do with shipping. There are plenty of things in my life where shipping does not enter into it at all. However, of course, as this is largely a shipping channel, if there are ships, I'll point them out. So in order to make this as shippable as possible, let's go from least shippable to most shippable show. Okay, let's do this. 5 of them. We can do it. First up, the Outer Limits remake. This was a sci-fi anthology show that lasted for 7 seasons. It aired from 1995 to 2002, and is very much of that era, but not so much that it's so dated that you can't still watch it and enjoy it. Unlike the 60s show on which it is based, this one doesn't strictly stick to the Monster of the Week format, though of course that is there. And while the Twilight Zone remake from the 80s had a lot to live up to reputation-wise, this one not so much, and I feel that that frees it up a bit to be more creative and try out more things. It's also a great place to see some adaptations of some newer short stories, because so much has been written since the 60s and beyond, of course. The show has some truly standout standalone episodes, and also uniquely enough revisits some universes. So there are some episodes such as a genetic mutation arc and a robotics arc that reoccur throughout the series, just different stories taking place within that same universe that aren't intrinsically connected but are thematically. And that's always cool from an anthology show, to reward you like that for watching for the entire 7 seasons, which I definitely did, even if at the end it got a bit repetitive, but it was still good. Another reason I'm so fond of it is arguably the nostalgia, because when I was watching it back in the 90s, I didn't have cable. I had one of those TVs with an antenna that you could pull the signals out of the air if you angled it just right, and this channel for me was not one I could get very easily. Oftentimes it was in between 2 channels and the whole image would be staticky and I'd be watching, just squinting trying to see anything, but of course still watching, because I was dedicated. So if you're into sci-fi and anthology shows and you really like, say, Black Mirror or the like, well then this is another one to check out. There's a lot of good stuff here. Shipping wise, it's kind of because there's not enough recurring characters really to get attached to, but there are some episodes that have some really strong ships just in that episode itself. It's also a cool place to see some young up-and-coming actors. Next up, we have Blake 7, which is another sci-fi show because sci-fi is my favorite genre. This show ran for 4 seasons and it ran from 1978 to 1981, so it's an older one out there. And that definitely shows in terms of the camera work and the costuming and the effects. But for me, that doesn't take anything away from it, but I can understand why for some people it might. There's one effect that's laughably bad. It's their beaming effect, wherein the person is supposed to beam into an outline that's pre-drawn on the planet usually, but a lot of the times the outline is really off the mark, and so they're not even in the outline or the outline's misdrawn. I find that amusing, but I know for some people it would probably be really annoying. Blake 7 initially follows the titular Blake as he fights against the Federation, the oppressive Federation, because of course it is. The thing I like about it is that the characters are very unique and interesting in that they don't really get along together, and so the writing is very snarky and it's a sarcastic show, and a lot of the times it's just them trying to get through situations even though they can't even cooperate. And that makes it unique in the annals of sci-fi space operas, where oftentimes people are working together or at least coming together together to the point where they can function as a cohesive unit. Another thing that makes it unique is that the protagonist shifts 2 seasons in. Yes, spoilers for a show from the 70s. But one of the secondary characters, Care Avon, or Avon, it depends who you're pronouncing it, depends where you are and what kind of accent you have. Well, he proved so popular that he took over as the protagonist. So yes, for season 3, Blake 7 was no longer about Blake. Even though it kind of was. If you watch it, you know what I mean. His presence was still definitely felt. And for those who saw it, the finale will live on in infamy. I am still not okay. If you love sci-fi and feel like you've seen everything, well then check this out. Don't be put off by the fact that it's a little older. There is a decent amount of shipping for this as well. A lot of it is coming from zines and it's been reposted on archives like AO3 or fanfiction.net. Most of it's between Blake and Avon, but there are some other ships there as well. And of course, mine isn't Blake and Avon because I am never in the dominant ship. Well, almost never. Next up, Farscape. Now, lots of sci-fi nerds are fond of Farscape, but for a lot of people, it slips through the cracks. Like, there are certain sci-fi shows that were really big or at least had unique stuff going on that people just forget about. Farscape's one of them. Sadly, Stargate is becoming one of them, and that's amazing to me because Stargate is huge. Also, Lex and several others, and the list goes on, but for me, Farscape is definitely one of my faves of that bunch, though I do love me some Stargate. Farscape was centered around the titular John Crichton, who finds himself thrown through a wormhole to the other side of the galaxy where everything's topsy-turvy and there are battles between the usual totalitarian forces and other forces. And the thing that I like about it is because he's so outside of it, the universe is very big and a lot of it isn't explained. Some of it is, but some of it isn't. And because of that, it feels very big and allows you to build upon it in ways that you can't with certain other sci-fi shows. I love Star Trek to death so much, but a lot of the aliens there feel very reminiscent of human societies because they're supposed to, because that's what they're modeled off of. But with Farscape, there's a little bit of that, but also sometimes things feel genuinely alien. This show ran for 4 seasons from 1999 to 2003 and finished off with a movie after the series was canceled, which I'm forever sad about, but the movie wrapped it up pretty nicely. There was talks of there being some kind of feature film, but the last anybody heard about that was some pre-production rumors in 2014. At least that's the last time I could hear anything serious about it, so we probably won't see one, but honestly, it's okay. The series is pretty complete. While the series may be complete, it suffers a bit from tonally being very different from season to season. It doesn't have a complete thematic flow the entire way through. Each season feels very self-composed, but the characters are charismatic enough, in my opinion, that they carry through each situation. So you want to see how they react to all the situations, even if the situations are vastly different. Also, it has one of my favorite villain designs ever for the villain, Scorpius. It's amazing, and it acknowledges that breeding between species would be difficult and cause lots of problems, something they often only play lip service to in Star Trek. They're like, oh, that was sure difficult, but now he's completely fine. I mean, humans and Klingons, do you remember the episode where they devolved and it was so stupid, but he turned into like a Swamp Thing, Worf, and then like Riker was an ape person? I don't think we'd be able to breed. I mean, maybe the technology will be there, maybe it won't. Farscape asks that question, kind of, sort of, but then it also has people who look exactly like us, but are cold-blooded, but have completely mammalian organs and everything. Yes, you know what? Not everything needs to make sense in sci-fi. It's still good, I swear. I'm not making it sound good. It's really good. It has some really out there episodes that are amazing, and then it has some what's going on episodes. But in my opinion, they're all good, and it has some of the classic sci-fi, you know, tropes, clones, everything you can ask for. It's all there, flying around in a living space organism. Also, ships, tons of ships. Actually, when I'm filming in the other room, the poster I have up on the wall is of Aaron and Crichton from this show. So I really love them. I just think their arc is really cool. Next up, Brideshead Revisited, the TV miniseries that aired all the way back in 1981. You may have noticed that this is not sci-fi. Yes, I watch other genre shows. It's my second favorite type of show, the slice of life. Even though it's a period piece, but slice of life first, period piece second. This show was the beginning of my lifelong obsession with Jeremy Irons, which I think is a slightly, I don't know, is it less embarrassing or more embarrassing embarrassing than my obsession with Kyle MacLachlan. Kyle MacLachlan is great, but what's more embarrassing about it is that my crush didn't start on Twin Peaks or even Dune, as terrible as that Dune movie is, but in the Flintstones movie. Oh well, we all gotta start somewhere. So Brideshead Revisited is an adaptation of the novel by Evelyn Waugh, or Waugh. I've never actually heard anybody say that out loud, so I hope I said it right one of the ways. I know I pronounce things oddly sometimes. Anyways, pronunciations aside, it is one of my favorite adaptations of anything. The adaptation captures the slowness and the lyrical quality of the writing. Yes, it's probably more parts than it needs to be. There was a film adaptation years later in the 2000s, and that one really focused on the main ship from this, which is actually a huge component of the book between Charles and Sebastian. However, with this adaptation, the way it's stretched out and how long it can take, you really feel the relationship develop, and it really feels like the long, slow summer that they're describing. And as things speed up as he gets older and his life moves on, it feels very much like accruing actual life experience, the way that as you live, time just seems to go faster and faster. And all of a sudden, these things that were big events that took forever, they happen in the blink of an eye. And it also really encompasses the sadness of what happens to him and Sebastian. It's really sad, and the acting is superb. It's one of those things, if you want to get immersed in this kind of period piece world, it's definitely for you. And it has so many other themes because of how long it is. It can deal with how he's in love with his sister, but kind of because she's like him, and the coming to faith that is a large part of a novel, and the experiences with war and just depression and everything. The one thing I will say is that it is quite slow. I can't stress that enough. Things that could happen in 10 minutes maybe take up half an episode. But if you're into things taking a long time and you're okay with that, then this is definitely worth a watch. And also, I really like the focus on the relationship in this one compared to the film a lot more. This one may be less overt about it, but it also feels, in my opinion, more genuine and less for the titillation. Although, yes, it's nice that in the modern update you can show a lot more, but the love between the two characters just feels so deep because of the time they take with it in this one that I definitely prefer it. If I ever feel like I just need something to calm me down, this is a show that I've definitely gone back to, even though getting past the second episode takes some emotional forte, let's just say. This Is Us ain't got nothing on episode 3. And finally, the shippiest of all the shows that I enjoy, that no one else seems to care about, or at least isn't actively talking about anymore. Life on Mars, the UK version, not the terrible US update that they made for no reason, because you can just watch the UK version. Life on Mars. Sci-fi or speculative fiction? It depends how you want to look at it and how plausible you find what is occurring. The series follows Sam Tyler as he suddenly finds himself waking up in the 1970s after previously living in what was then the modern era of the 2000s. The early 2000s, it's still the 2000s, obviously. A lot of the show focuses on how because of this, he's very odd and offbeat and doesn't quite fit in, and yet he finds himself far more at home in this world than he ever was in the previous one. The show has some pretty heavy romantic elements, but of course, did people go for the canon ship? No, they did not, because why would they? That's not what fandom's for. Canon's on the screen, you already have that. Although I do like Sam and Annie, they're cute. But for most fans, it was all about Sam and Jean. The pairings for these two, it was intense. I am not gonna lie, I made some fan vids for this. Not for the two of them specifically, but I made some fan vids for this show. Also, speaking of, I made about 5 fan vids for Farscape. It's just out of control. They're still up there. For some reason, those ones didn't get deleted. At least I have that. So anyway, Sam and Jean, there was a lot. I was really into this ship back in the day. I remember actually re-watching certain sequences because part of their relationship in canon was that Jean cared about him, but was kind of the gruff, hyper-masculine type, so he wasn't showing that he cared, but there were little instances where you could tell that he was really concerned and protective of Sam. And for a shipper who is not necessarily looking for moments, but really attuned to when they happen, that was huge. A lot of people like the pairing that came from the sequel series Ashes to Ashes more, but I will always have a soft spot for this one. And also because in this series, they hadn't quite revealed what was going on yet, and I'm not the biggest fan of the reveal. I'm not going to tell you what it was, just in case you want to watch Life on Mars and then Ashes to Ashes. Also, Life on Mars, you got the David Bowie theme. You got that? Yeah, that's a reason to watch the show, I know, right? So anyway, I really enjoyed all of these shows. I thought that they were good. They weren't perfect. They all have their flaws in their own way. It's not like they're masterpieces, but there's something about all of them that I think makes them worth watching all the way through. Ship or no ship, they just have something unique about all of them that I really enjoyed. So yes, that is the overly long answer to top 5 TV shows that weren't even my favorites, because that's a different video, but these are the top 5 favorite TV shows that other people don't seem to care about / have ships that people aren't talking about because of it or because they're old. Yes, that's gonna be the title. That's a BoJack Horseman title right there. Let me know if you watched any of these shows, if you enjoyed them, if you hated them. I love hearing from you, and if you want to kind of make this maybe at some point a more live streamy thing, someone had the idea for the question that the person asked in the Q&A about when Once Upon a Time went downhill, and I thought that would be kind of fun. That way we can get even more interactive than this, but I also just love talking to you guys about random things and ships. Yeah, I think it's a good time, I think. Let me know if it's not, please. Yeah, I don't know about any of you, but I continue to care about shows after they're done. I know a lot of people, like, it's a one and done, just like some people watch a movie once and that's it. That is definitely not me. I watch most shows more than once, most movies more than once, just so I can tell if I still like it. That's one of the things I like to do. Like, if I have a movie that I liked, say, 5 years ago, I like to watch it again to see if I still like it or if something's changed or why I still do or don't like it. Side note, Kyle MacLachlan in The Hidden. Peak Kyle MacLachlan. Gorgeous. Also, I'm the only person shipping anything from that movie that so few people saw. There's nothing online, help me. So let me know what your favorite TV shows are that no one else seems to care about, or have ships that you are passionate about, but because so few people have watched it or are still watching it, it's just kind of dying out or calming down, or if you just want to talk about it, let's do it. As always, thank you so much for watching. We have so much stuff coming up. I'm really excited. Production has been a bit wonky, but it's about to kick into overdrive. We're gonna have some of the ships coming up that you guys have been asking for forever. We're talking Steric, we're talking Nig Mobblepot, we're talking Supercord. Like, okay, like, it's not gonna happen in 1 month or anything, but they're coming. These ones are things I'm working towards. Also, the anime, the Death Note rewatch has begun. Just saying. So if you want to keep an eye on what's coming up and when it's happening, all that jazz, either follow me on Twitter at Shipper's Guide, because I'm always talking about stuff there and people can send in suggestions and everything, and it's a lot of fun. Also, Patreon, where we have the monthly vote. There's always at least 1 vote per month, and sometimes there are more depending on what we're deciding. That's another place to check out if you're interested in either helping out and voting / contributing, or if you just want to know what's going on. Good thing to check out. How is all of this happening? We've got an editor and it's exciting. Woo! No longer alone. 2 people editing instead of 1. As always, thanks so much for watching. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all my patrons, names on the side, and as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.